I always thought my life would feel like the fairy tales my mother raised me on: quiet, soft, predictable. I was the girl who baked cinnamon bread for the neighbors, remembered everyone's birthday, and believed that the people you loved would never be the ones to break you. But life isn't a fairy tale. Sometimes the villain shares your blood. Sometimes the monster sleeps next to you. My name is Liana, and this is how my fiancé and my own cousin financed the wedding of their dreams, my dream wedding, just so I could destroy them both on the day they thought they'd won. It started on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where the clouds feel heavy with secrets. I worked from home, writing content for a wellness brand, while my fiancé, Caleb, worked at a local architectural firm. He was handsome in that polished, boy-next-door way, warm brown eyes, a smile that could disarm anyone, and a gentleness that made every woman in our friend's circle comment on how lucky I was. And I was lucky, or I thought I was, until the day I realized the gentleness was only a mask. I had left my laptop at his apartment the night before and decided to swing by on my lunch break to pick it up. I didn't want to bother him at work, so I used the spare key he'd given me. I still remember the smell when I opened the door: vanilla candles, warm coffee, and something else. Something I didn't recognize at first. Perfume. Floral. Expensive. Not mine. I stepped inside slowly, my heartbeat tapping against my ribs. I heard giggles coming from the bedroom, soft but unmistakable. At first, my brain refused to connect the dots. Caleb sometimes had his sisters over. Maybe no. I knew that laugh. I knew it in childhood, when it mocked me for having crooked teeth. I knew it in high school, when it told everyone I padded my bra. And I knew it last month, when she stood beside me at my bridal fitting, pretending to love me like a sister. My cousin, Maria. I froze 5 feet from the bedroom door, the world tilting sideways. My breath stuck in my throat like a stone. The sheets rustled. Caleb murmured something low. Maria giggled again. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe. I walked backward, slowly, silently, shutting the door so gently it didn't make a sound. Then I walked down the stairs, sat in my car, and stared blankly at the steering wheel as thunder rolled overhead. Shock is a strange thing. It doesn't feel sharp. It feels heavy. I didn't confront him. Not then. Not ever, not the way he expected. Because while betrayal hurts, humiliation burns. And nothing fuels revenge like humiliation. 2 days later, Caleb proposed something new. He wanted us to move the wedding date up from next year to this winter because life is short, and when you know, you know. I stared at him across the dinner table, forcing myself to smile sweetly as he brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. What brought this on? I asked, pretending innocence. He shrugged with the same easy charm he used on everyone. I'm just excited to marry you. In reality, I already knew the truth. Maria was 3 weeks late. I'd overheard her whisper on the phone to him after I quietly placed AirTags in both their cars. Yes, I became the villain they made me. I learned their patterns, their lies, their secret hotel meetups. The universe handed me betrayal. I handed myself strategy. Okay, I whispered, smiling softly. Let's do a winter wedding. Caleb breathed out in relief, kissed my hand, and spent the rest of dinner telling me how he wanted it to be magical, dreamy, unforgettable. Unforgettable? It would be, just not for the reasons he imagined. The next 3 months were a masterpiece of acting, one I didn't know I was capable of. I let him plan everything he wanted. I let him believe he was in control. I let him pay for nothing. You see, Caleb had always dreamed of marrying someone who didn't care about money, which, translated into reality, meant He wanted a wife who would pay for everything. So I did. With a smile, I upgraded the venue. I chose a designer gown. I booked the most expensive photography team in the city. I added a fireworks show, a champagne fountain, a live orchestra, and a floral installation so elaborate the decorator actually whispered, "Are you sure? This looks like a royal wedding." I was sure. More than sure. I was investing. My cousin Maria remained close, playing the role of enthusiastic bridesmaid, while secretly meeting my fiancé after dress appointments and errand days. She never knew I had photos, videos, messages, screenshots, credit card receipts from a hotel near his office at 11 p.m. She thought she was brilliant. They both did, but neither of them noticed the contracts. The venue contract in Caleb's name, the catering contract in Caleb's name, the firework license in Caleb's name, the floral invoice, Caleb, the live orchestra, Caleb, the bar tab, Caleb, the hotel block, Caleb, every last detail, every last cent, all legally tied to him, all non-refundable. And since he signed everything digitally, without reading, trusting me completely, my revenge was already guaranteed. But I wasn't done. Not yet. The wedding day arrived coated in silver frost, the air shimmering with winter light. Everything was breathtaking, exactly as Caleb dreamed. The venue looked like it had been carved out of a snow globe. Guests gasped when they entered, marveling at the floral archway dripping in white roses and crystals. A quartet played softly from a balcony. Candlelight flickered everywhere, warm and romantic. Maria arrived in her champagne-colored bridesmaid dress, looking smug, wearing a secret that she thought made her powerful. She kept touching her stomach when she thought no one was looking. I watched her. I watched him. I watched the way they avoided each other just enough to look innocent, perfect. Caleb looked like a man in love, so deeply in love it would have fooled anyone who hadn't seen the video of him kissing Maria in his car just 5 days earlier. My bridesmaids fluttered around me. My makeup artist fixed my lipstick. My mother cried about how proud she was. I stood in my gown, a shimmering line covered in pearls, feeling strangely calm. Not happy, not sad, just ready. My revenge wasn't loud. It was strategic. It was surgical. When the ceremony began, I walked down the aisle slowly, gracefully, every eye on me, the music swelling beautifully. Caleb watched me tear up, smiling through nerves. He had no idea the ground beneath his feet was about to collapse. We reached the altar. The pastor gave the opening speech. Caleb squeezed my hands. And then it was my turn to speak. Before we begin, I said softly, "I have something I want to share. Something important." The room went still. Caleb blinked. Maria stiffened beside the maid of honor. I reached into the pocket sewn into my gown and pulled out a small remote. The screen behind us, originally meant for wedding photos, lit up. The first video played. Caleb's car rocking gently in a dim parking lot. Maria's face as she kissed him. His voice whispering her name. Gasps exploded through the room. My aunt screamed Maria's name. My mother stood up so fast her chair fell backward. Caleb went pale, deathly pale. "Liana," he stuttered. "I can explain, this isn't, please. Don't," I said softly. The second video began. The hotel room. Their laughing. Their whispers. His hand on her stomach. Maria burst into tears, shaking her head wildly, mouthing no, no, no. Some guests were crying. Some were filming. Some were whispering viciously. I waited for the room to quiet. "I found out months ago," I said calmly, addressing the guests. "I didn't call off the wedding because I wanted this moment to be a lesson about loyalty, love, and consequences. Caleb dropped to his knees right there on the altar, grabbing my dress. Please, please, please don't do this to me. You already did this to yourself, I whispered. Then I stepped back, letting his hands fall. And by the way, I added, my voice carrying across the stunned room. Every single thing you see here, every flower, every candle, every chair, every musician, you're paying for it all. A wave of confusion rippled. I smiled sweetly, holding up the contracts I'd printed and highlighted. All in your name, legally, non-refundable. Caleb's face crumpled. Maria let out a strangled sob. And one more thing, I said, I won't be marrying you today. The crowd erupted. Someone shouted, "You go, girl." Another yelled, "Payback." I turned, lifted my dress, and walked down the aisle alone, head high, every step echoing like a victory drum. My bridesmaids followed me instinctively, forming a protective circle. The quartet, unsure what else to do, continued playing a hauntingly beautiful melody that made the moment feel almost cinematic. Outside, snowflakes drifted gently from the sky. The air felt cold, pure, new. My best friend handed me her coat. Someone else hugged me. Another guest pressed her phone number into my hand, whispering, "Call me if you ever want this turned into a documentary." I didn't cry. Not a single tear. My heart didn't hurt anymore. Because when you walk away from people who were never meant to love you, the world feels lighter. As I reached the parking lot, I heard yelling erupt inside the venue. Maria's family screaming at Caleb, Caleb shouting back, chaos tearing apart everything they tried so hard to hide. I didn't look back. Not once. Later that night, I received a text from Caleb. "You ruined my life." I replied with one sentence. "No, love. I simply handed you the bill." And then I blocked him. The next morning, headlines spread across social media. Bride exposes cheating fiancé at the altar, guests say. It was better than Netflix. Maria disappeared from every platform. Caleb quit his job. Their families stopped speaking to each other. The debt of the wedding followed Caleb for years. As for me, I healed. Slowly, honestly, completely. Because revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about reclaiming the pieces of yourself they tried to break. And walking away from that altar wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning.